is our theme song podcast by our good friend, Arlington resident and business owner, Colin Gow. And I am Steve Shoney. I am the city manager for the city of Up Arlington. I'm here with my co-host,
Darren Schulman. I'm the city attorney.
So we're doing stuff. We're getting crazy. Darren and I just
funky. We're gonna shred this episode. Is that the right word?
Not funk and shred.
I don't know. I'm trying my best here, man.
So anyway, Darren and I are both back from vacations. I had a lovely time in Costa Rica. If you haven't ever been to Costa Rica, totally recommend it. Fantastic. Darren went to Geek Fest.
I did. Comic-Con, my nerd convention as it's called.
Took the whole fam.
I did. We dressed Parker up.
What'd you dress her up as?
She was young Princess Leia. She was Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph. And she was a character named Dino Dana, which is the show she watches all the time about this little girl who likes dinosaurs.
That's really cool.
Oh, yeah. And then the best one was, do you know what a porg is from Star Wars? Those little bird things?
No.
She was a porg. So we nerded her up every day. I've ruined her childhood. I have pictures of it now.
So we're just getting completely crazy. So we are not going with our normal format, which is to separately record somebody from UA staff talking about something like really city geeky, and somebody from the community, because after we hired him, we discovered that Jeff Kasson, who has been our IT director for about a year, had this little thing in his past called being a professional skateboarder.
Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Jeff, it's like you would not expect it by both his profession and just looking at him. You're like, I don't think you're telling the truth, but apparently he is.
No, and then we also have a gentleman in our community who I think had the moniker of Skate God at one point. Kenny Mollica.
I never heard that.
So we did, and I learned as we were chit-chatting before we got on that Jeff and Kenny have known each other since you guys were like teenagers, preteen.
10. I was 10 or 9, probably.
Yeah.
And so we decided to first make Jeff come on and talk in front of his old skateboarding friend about cybersecurity and try and not sound really old and boring.
And he's got notes. He's prepared.
So we're doing this a little bit differently. So Jeff, step up to, and we've only got 3 mics for 4 people, so this is going to be a little goofy today. So Jeff, step up, say hello to the adoring fans.
Hey everybody, I actually am a skateboarder, or was a skateboarder at one time, but Kenny is the skate god for sure.
We were peers and still are, I'm sure.
Just to establish your skateboarding cred, I heard there was something about a magazine cover.
No, not a magazine cover. He might not want to hear this.
Okay.
Because Kenny is a much better skater than I ever was, and he was on vacation, is that right?
We went to the Virgin Islands in the December of 1980 when Ted Terrebonne and Dwayne Peters were coming to the park to feature the park, and my dad had set up a sailing trip at the same time, and it was a bad weekend. It was the weekend John Lennon was killed, and we didn't get in the magazine. It was cloudy in the Virgin Islands, and I begged my dad to let me go home, and he didn't. But you guys were in the magazine, which was all of our goal back in the day. I mean, it was that was the thing, and
Yeah.
and
So
you
Jeff
deserved
got in
it.
and you didn't?
Jeff got in, and I didn't. Were you the manager of the park at the time?
Yeah. Well, not skate shop.
Oh, at the skate shop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we skated every day together, and we were pretty good for the Midwest. And the pros all came to town, and it was awesome. But was it a shot of you flying out of the 3/4 bowl?
No, I was doing a frontside grind on the kidney in the
Oh my God, Jeff just said frontside grind on the kid. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
He's usually talking about transistors and like capacitors. My mind is blown.
So
It was totally rad, man.
So It just shows how non-technically adept Darren is that he said transistors, which I think comes from about the same era that you guys were talking about in terms of your skating. So, we'll start with Jeff, just because I am enough of a creature of habit that I can't start with our staff. So how do you go from managing a skate shop to before you were here, you helped to run the IT department for Children's, and then you ran it for Otterbein, went to Florida, ran it for a couple cities down there, and then decided to come back closer to home. And I've been doing a fantastic job for us for last year. So what's that career path from skate shop to IT director?
I guess it's called raising a family and having to be responsible for change.
I get it. I'm an appraiser. So, we all, even the truest of romantics must compromise. And so, the skate shop didn't pay the bills. And
right.
So we all, I guess we went straight just for the sake of a good life and a good income.
So I did think about titling this podcast, Mom and Dad, It'll Be Okay.
Yeah, we got responsible at some point.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I do want you to talk a little bit about what you do for us. And then, one of the jobs in the city that really is internally focused is IT. But there are some things that you do to help our residents stay safe, and some things that we do to help our residents kind of keep their data safe and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, we also like to have an outward focus, so we reach out to the community and just make them aware. We have Cybersecurity Month happens in October, and we have open sessions here at City Hall, and we just talk in general about just basic things that you can do to help protect yourself from crime and from people that are stealing your information or stealing your money. So, just general things. So, I always tell people when they're thinking about being secure in a complicated world is just use your common sense. Think about how you would approach a situation if you weren't using a computer. So, if somebody offered you something and it was too good to be true, then it probably is too good to be true. So, when you receive an email and it has a sense of urgency and you're not expecting it, and it asks you for your social security number or your password, use your common sense and just don't give it out. When you are on your bank accounts and things like that, if you have passwords, make sure that you change your passwords often. Make them something complicated, and don't name them after your dog or your favorite sports team. And
but naming them after my kids is okay then.
That's fine.
Okay.
As long as you put a couple numbers at the end.
And rotate them on a regular basis. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can always reach out to us here at the city if you have questions or you get stuck. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. My phone number is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's gonna drop his number.
Is 614-583-5205. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. So if you get stuck, just give me a call.
Do you also run the phone lines as part of the city? Because you might want to expand the capacity of your line now.
Because you are going to have all 15 of our loyal listeners now call you.
That's okay. I'll help you out.
And if you have questions for Jeff, you can also feel free to send them to the podcast emails, which are, you can choose fanmail at uaoh.net or hatemail at uaoh.net. So, Jeff, the other thing that comes up a lot when we talk about IT and stuff for the city, last year there was a whole rash of ransoms where I think Akron got shut down and they held their entire city for ransom and cryptocurrency, which, look, if they had just held out for 9 more months, it would have been a lot cheaper to pay the ransom.
Yeah.
Here's all our Bitcoin. It's fine. We're $10.
Yeah, exactly. What do you do to make sure that we're protecting the city from stuff like that?
Yeah, at the city we have a layered approach to security. So we have multiple perspectives on what we should be doing to protect the city. And in all aspects. But one of the main things in regard to ransomware is just making sure you have good backups. So what happens in a nutshell with ransomware is it encrypts your files, and then you're extorted. They ask for money so that they can unencrypt your files so that you can have access to it again. So we protect against this, and I'm pretty confident we're in a good place. But a good thing for people at home is make sure that you're backing up your data, so if something does happen, you can restore that and get back to where you were, and you won't be in a tight spot.
Yeah. Cool. All right, enough of that stuff. So
I feel secure. Let's talk about
feel secure. All right, so Kenny, you did admit that you are one of the 35,995 people in UA who don't listen to the podcast.
I've never listened to any podcast, so it's not just you.
Oh, so we're as good as every other podcast.
Yeah, you guys are like Joe Rogan to me.
At this point, we are his favorite podcast.
We are tied.
That's right. That's right, Joe Rogan. We're coming after you.
Right.
So we start every segment that we do with a guest with a 3-question thing called Start Bench Cut. So we're going to give you 3 names, and if you were putting together a team or something, who would you start? Who would you have him on the bench in reserve, and who would you cut? You want to give the names, or do you want me to?
I will give one. What's where to?
I probably won't even know these people, but
You'll know.
No, you'll know them.
Okay.
We're doing them from the boarding world.
Oh, and this is Start?
Start.
Basically, who's your favorite, who's your second favorite, who's your third, but it's fancy.
Then the third is who are you going to disrespect by saying you're going to cut them?
All right.
So the first one, and you mentioned this before we got on, Tony Hawk. I mean, you know who he is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love Tony.
Yeah. Sean White.
Yep.
And Jeff Kasson.
Well,
3 best skateboarders we know.
I would definitely put Tony first, and Jeff would definitely be second. Sean
Olympian
White
out.
is gonna be kicked to the curb.
So-
Sean White's a good skater, but he's kind of a robot. He doesn't have a lot of style or flow, and he's a pro, not a bro. He doesn't have any friends that are skateboarders or snowboarders. He never lived at a ski resort. He's just, I was kind of like Sean White, where I was businesslike and I was competitive, but I don't even know if that guy has any friends. So
now I feel kind of bad for him. I'll be your friend, Sean. If you're
no, nobody likes him. It's all right. He's so good, we root for him, but once he takes the medal, he doesn't seem that cool.
He seems to be known maybe more for snowboarding. Now, can you talk about is there correlation? Can you do both pretty easy, or is that kind of a good, because I think there's a lot of people who do both, right?
There's a lot of people that do both, but hardly anybody does both very well. And most snowboarders don't skateboard because it's dangerous, and a lot of skateboarders don't snowboard because it's expensive.
Yeah.
So there's not a huge crossover. But it's funny, but I see professional skateboarders go snowboarding, and they're pitiful. Or professional, surfers go snowboarding. Yeah, so they're all very different, but similar. And I was pretty good snowboarder and okay skateboarder, but
Jeff told me the other day that you were kind of very, very early on in snowboarding.
Oh yeah, we started in 80. We started in 84. I got off the Greyhound bus when I went to school at Colorado State, and right as I got off the bus was a shop called The Wright Life, WRIGHT Life, owned by Bill Wright, and there was a Sims snowboard and a Burton snowboard in the window, and I'd never seen them. And so I went there the next day and, tried to buy one, didn't have enough money. Called Tom Sims, asked him if he would sponsor me, and he goes, "Well, are you any good?" And I go, "Yeah, I've only been once." And he goes, "Well, settle down." So I waited to see if I could, we bought one by the time the snow fell. And we got in there when the only resorts that allowed snowboarding was Estes Park, which I don't even think is a resort anymore, and then Berthoud Pass. So no Vail, no Copper, no Telluride. None of those places allowed it. So we do a lot of hitchhiking at Loveland Pass and have cars pick us back up in the early days. And then as 85, 86, 87, 88, it was just the new wave. It took over.
So I beat you, but in time, but I didn't beat you in the ability to do it. I got a Burton board from Apple Skate Park, took it to snow trails, no bindings. They let me go down once, and I got down to the bottom of the lift, and they said, our insurance doesn't cover this. And that was it.
So you got the board from Apple?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That had to be 81.
I think so. 80,
Yeah, 81. Well, you were before me, which you got it.
So can you talk a little bit about the evolution of the sport? I mean, you're talking about you're not even allowed on trails, and now it's Olympics and X Games. Can you talk about where you were and how things grew?
Well, just like I always pick the sports where you're hated. And so, skateboarders have been hated since, the 60s. And boy, did the skiers hate snowboarders when they started because, we wore real bright clothing. It was the 80s. It was all day glow. And we'd wear, like, colored zinc, like war paint. And, we were just kind of terrorizing the place. And before they built the parks, we were just using picnic benches and logs and anything we could just as a rail and building jumps. So, they didn't like us, and we liked that they didn't like us. We were in our 20s, early 20s, and it was awesome. And then slowly over time, people don't even look twice at snowboarders. I think they still hate us, but they've learned to coexist.
So what do you think about the fact that now skiers are trying to do tricks on skis? It's just like, oh man, come on, dude.
It's so funny because the skiers hated snowboarders, and then they widened their skis and put a deeper side cut in because they saw how good the snowboards were turning, and now they're trying to do all snowboard tricks in the snowboard half pipe, which it's kind of full circle.
Yeah,
I can appreciate it. Skiing doesn't have the same aesthetic to me that skateboarding does. Like if you picture any sport, your foot's in front, whether you're playing tennis or you're a pitcher. And skiing, I respect it. It's hard, but it just looks dorky. You know what I mean? You got the crutches. And it just looks kind of dorky.
It is dorky.
It's a little bit dorky, but I'm not a real snowboarder because I always snowboarded with skiers. And they'd be like, well, this run's, pretty difficult, Kenny. I go, don't worry. I'll wait for you. So
you mentioned hitting up the guy for sponsorship. When you were skateboarding, were you professional? Did you get paid?
Well,
or sponsored?
In the early days, I was sponsored by Sims, and they would just give you products and stuff. And then our skate park on Sinclair Road, Apple, it closed in 81. I didn't really skateboard much. I had a half pipe in my backyard in college, which one day I went to class, came home, they go, Tony Hawk was just here. And so he was friends with Joe Johnson, who lived in Fort Collins. So I met Tony back in the 80s, but I only skated with him a handful of times, and we worshipped him.
Is he a cool dude? You said you don't like Shaun White, but is he cool?
Tony's totally cool, but he was like 3 or 4 years younger than us, and they just seemed like kids. Yeah. We were in college, and they didn't talk to us that much because they were skate gods, and they didn't have to. But he was super nice, and I think he's the nicest guy. I've only met him once or twice, but he's super cool. Just a nice guy.
And when you guys were both skating, did they have like world rankings or anything, or were you like considered like legit?
Well, back in the 70s, it was all about freestyle and slalom. And, we both were on the same Columbus team. And we took a van to the Soapbox Derby Hill in Akron. And they had the world championships. And it was 360s, slalom, downhill, that kind of stuff. And that got abandoned after the end of the 70s. But
so there were some world rankings for like slalom. And then there were skate park series like the Hester series. So there were, and then back here we had the GLSA, which was like the Great Lakes Skateboard Association, and we would have like a circuit over the year. We'd go up to Detroit and Roseville and then Apple, and I think we had some points. And then Apple, we had our own series,
which Kenny always won in his age group, by the way.
Well,
you beat Jamie that one time, didn't you?
Yeah, he was robbed. Jamie Godfrey was from the Bones Brigade from New Jersey, and that was the only contest I won that I didn't think I should have won. But it was the hometown favorite. And they go, what music do you want? And he goes, I don't care. And we put on, oh, well, Jamie's crying. And he was such a good skater. But I won that one. And then at the end of Apple, I was fading, and Brent Martin was getting better than me. Yeah. And Rob Roscop, who became a big Santa Cruz pro. I was puberty Pete. So I peaked at like 15 years old, and some of these guys were like 16 and still super flexible, and they just were starting to take over at the end.
You're selling yourself short. Can you talk about how I think you brought slalom back from the brink in your golden years?
Well, I quit skating after college until probably I was like 35. We went on vacation and bought a longboard in like Virginia Beach or somewhere, and then the internet came out, and then municipalities started building skate parks, and then the X Games were big, and then eBay came out, so we started looking at some old stuff, and then there was a resurgence in the slalom community, which was really fun. And I went to my first race in 2001 and ran into a bunch of the old heroes: John Hudson, Bob Skolberg, Henry Hester, Steve Olson, all those guys. And so then the next year in 2002, there was a big series, and they were trying to get it into the X Games. And so these guys, John Krisick, who owns Crokies, and then another couple wealthy guys, they put together this big tour, and it was pretty awesome. And it was all over the country. It was Colorado, California, Oregon, New York, New Mexico, and
Columbus.
In Columbus. And we were on tour when I was like, I think I was about 38 years old. It had to be 2002, 2003, and that was really fun. But Americans don't care about racing, and I did become the world champion at that. But it's like
you're totally underplayed. You're like, that's world.
It's like lawnmower racing. Slalom is not. Those guys are serious. They spend their whole year on it, and it was super, super competitive. But again, nobody cared really. I mean, except people in slalom. And then slalom kind of died because they realized, it wasn't going to go big. These guys defunded the tour. But we had so much fun. It was my third childhood. Yeah. I had my real childhood, and then Colorado snowboarding, and then from 36 to 42, we traveled and and I was with all my old heroes. And I was my late 30s, they were in their early 40s, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And you came out with me a few times.
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, I think you got me back into it, and it was just a great thing, and I appreciate that, and we had a lot of fun. And I don't think people understand how good you were slaloming. You were super fast, and it was amazing.
Well, thanks. I mean, I tried hard, and I probably had a chip on my shoulder about that magazine thing. And it was so funny because
get over it, man.
I did. There was this old guy magazine during this whole nostalgia. Michael Brooks started a magazine called International Longboarder, and then changed it to Concrete Wave, and it sort of featured older skateboarders in some of the old disciplines. And there was ads for slalom stuff, and I was in that magazine all the time, and it did feel cool. I felt a little corny because I was 38, 39 years old, and people were looking at me like, bro. But I didn't have a kid, and my theory was you're a kid until you have one. And so I had a kid at 39, and then I just stopped all that stuff, just stopped competing and just slowed down.
We've been like dropping some lingo, but can you give us some official early skateboard slang?
So if we want to sound, because, I mean, Darren and I, you never went through a skateboard phase, I assume, right?
No.
So
completely uncoordinated.
So I went to OU, and when I was at OU, I worked in the front room coffee house, which was the coffee house in the basement of the student union. I was the strange one because I still had a haircut like this and dressed basically like this in college. So absolutely no background on skateboarding for either of us. But if we wanted to, if we meet some guys who are skateboarding, we want to sound like we know what we're doing and how
Maybe if these guys called themselves Groms, would that work?
You guys could be Groms or newbies. You guys would be newbies. But the first
No, I don't want to be a newbie.
We want to be experienced.
Well,
I want to
trick people.
Yeah.
the first thing you're going to ask is, are you regular or goofy?
Well, yeah. And I've got a kid who snowboards and that basically does everything on a board except for skateboard. So Goofy's whether you're setting up basically right-handed or left.
Goofy's right foot forward.
I'm Goofy. Are you regular?
I'm regular. Do you push Mongo?
Never, no.
Okay, Mongo's when you push with your front foot and keep your back foot on the board. But some of the tricks we used to do, front side grind, back side grind, rock and roll, fakie revert, cess slide,
Yep. Backside air, tail slide.
lip slide, tail slide.
When somebody does
Revert.
something awesome, what do you say? Like, do you say like righteous dude, or like how do you like say that was a really good trick?
You know what the kids do at the skate park? They click the tail of their board on the lip of the pool. Nobody gives any verbal compliments at the skate park. I yell and scream and hoot and holler, cuss. They all just go and click their boards because skateboarders are weird. They're teenagers. They're awkward. And so slapping the board on the coping seems cool instead of going, dude, that was so sick. And that's me. I'm always giving credit.
Yeah.
You're being too try-hard, as the kids say.
I am a tryhard.
So, rad.
Oh, rad, gnarly, like that was gnar.
So not gnarly, but just gnar.
Gnar or gnarvana.
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 Oh wow!
That one's from my buddy Dave Hackett. He just did something. That was so gnarvana, dude.
I am using that. Can I borrow that from him?
We're going to have somebody in municipal court next week, and they're going to come up and they're going to have done something really, really stupid, and Darren's going to say to them, dude, that was pretty gnarvana.
Gnarvana. I'm giving you a break today.
Yeah, gnarvana. But we had a lot of fun skateboarding growing up. I think I spent one night here when we used to skate the Lane Road Hill,
Okay.
and we would skate it at night. And I lived right at the top of the hill, and every once in a while the cops would come, and one time they did actually bring us in here. We're like, can't we just walk home? But skateboarding has always been a little bit of an outlaw thing, but we were kind of clean cut skaters.
Were you hanging on the bumper of the cruiser? Is that the thing?
No. But we used to skate around here, and then there was a fountain at the Triangle Park where Tremont and Reading was. And remember, that thing was empty for a couple weeks, and everybody skateboarded in 1977 and 78. And then basically everyone quit in 79. But that fountain was like UA's little skate park, and they let us do it. And then there's that little drainage ditch at the bottom of Lane Road where we skated.
Mm-hmm.
And then we used to skate the Nottingham Hill down to the river. So there was a lot of good skate spots, and Arlington was always just a great spot. And I have an electric skateboard now, and Arlington is the best with the black gold that they put down, like a North Star just now. I mean, here's some good.
How does an electric skateboard work? It has like a motor in it?
You've never seen an electric skateboard?
I've seen the
God,
hoverboard
you need
things,
to get
but-
out.
You don't see, it's an electric skateboard. It's got a motor for each of the back wheels. It's got a remote control. It goes about 22 miles an hour.
It's a scooter without the handle.
It's a scooter without the handle. We could take it all the way downtown, roll around the State House, and come back. And every once in a while, it'll die near campus. But I got Uber. So I just sit on my board, and you're free. You don't have to worry about it. So you just Uber home, and it's really fun.
So what brought you back to UA? You grow up here. You go out to Colorado State for school. What brings you back?
I never considered living anywhere else. I never even thought about it. I love UA. It's awesome. I could almost cry thinking about it. It's such a nice place, and I knew I was going to come back here. And people are like, what are you doing in Ohio? You love it? I'm like, dude, this is my locker room. This is the place where you leave from and come home to. So I always knew I was going to be here, and I do love it.
That's cool.
It's the only place to experience true gnarvana.
That's gonna be the city's
Every
new.
meeting.
We should, so Brian's on the communications team. He is. I think all of our new hashtag for all of our social media is going to be it's gnarvana.
It is gnarvana. UA is just such a cool place, and I was just in Dublin yesterday, and Dublin's cool too, and it's grown up and it's nice, but it's bisected by Route 33, it's bisected by 270, it's bisected by 161, and UA's it's just got such good boundaries, and it just feels so, it's just nice. I don't know.
Well, and it's got good boundaries. And then the other thing that we take for granted is the fact that it is, and this seems silly and stupid and very high schoolish, but the fact that we have one high school,
I love it.
Draws everyone in the community together. And our boundaries, the city boundaries and the school boundaries, are almost exactly the same. And it really does do something about the sense of community that is different than Dublin, where you've got 3 high schools and you've got kids who live on Henderson Road who go to Dublin schools. North side of Henderson Road, but
right.
they're, and so it is one of the things that I think is different about this place.
And you're not, some of these people at some of these schools with multi-high schools, they probably just hate people.
Oh, yeah.
From another high school. And we had a little bit of that with Hastings Jones, but it was healthy. And we knew after the, 9th grade back then, we were going to Arlington. We were going to be, friends for life. But I like where Arlington sits, close to downtown, close to campus, got the river on one side. It's so sweet. Yeah. I can't handle it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I also want to point out the Bros Not Pros was also a nice tidbit that I'm going to integrate into my.
Yeah. Bros Not Pros.
Yeah. I mean, Shaun White is a pro, not a bro. He's never washed a dish up at Lake Tahoe or wherever he used to go, Bear Lake. He would just drive the 4 hours from San Diego and be back home. And I was kind of the same way at Apple Skate Park. I was like the daytime Apple kid, and then would come back and hang out with my jock friends, where the real skater punk rock people would, stay at the park late and then go to Crazy Mamas on campus. And, I was like, you guys have your nighttime. I'm going back with the cheerleaders at Upper Arlington. You can punk rock. Why don't we put a safety pin through your lip? It's going to be great. So I was more of a pro than a bro, I guess. But I was a bro to my friends back here.
Yeah.
I remember Steve Olson coming there, and we were just curing the concrete in the pools, and we were swimming in pools and skating in the ones that were in leopard pants.
Oh my God! I remember that. We got those leopard pants from Bonnie and Clyde's.
Yeah.
On in Clintonville.
Wait, did you just admit you
time out. Jeff in leopard pants?
Oh yeah, we had leopard skin. we raided Bonnie and Clyde's, which was a used clothing store, and we were wearing fur coats. And these guys used to borrow my mom's fur coats, and some of these guys were dyeing their hair blonde. And
I would arrive to work.
Wait, Jeff had hair?
Oh yeah, we both did. We both did.
Kenny had a fro.
Oh, I had a full fro.
No, I've seen pictures of you back in the day. It's impressive.
It was scary. I could hide like 7 unshaven pencils in my fro. You couldn't see it from side to side.
And if you can imagine, I had a 67 T-Bird driving up to work at Apple in my leopard skin pants.
Yep.
That was great.
We were kind of cool. But that was like Devo. We're through being cool. That was us.
I feel like the new thing for skateboarding culture should be going the other way. Like, I'm going to show up in like a 3-piece suit, and I'll be like, this is really cool. You have your leopard skin pants, but I've got my business suit, and I'm going to skate. And then I'll fall down and break my arm, so I will not do that.
I think you should try that. I think
that'll catch on. It'll be the new big thing.
I think you go with that. Put some of your cryptocurrency into that business idea.
I hate the way skaters are perceived, but I hate the way that they are, because, we weren't the kind of skaters that you think of like today, that like tattoos, and not that tattoos are bad, but I don't really care for them. I always tell the moms at the park, I said, the scarier they look, the nicer they are. But we were kind of like competitive, uniform, like skaters, and we were kind of clean cut, but
Yeah, it was a different time.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
Do you still have those leopard pants, Jeff? And would Steve allow you to wear those to work one day?
Those would fit the dress code.
No way.
Our IT security will feel so much more secure if you would wear the fur coat and leopard pants.
I would lose all my credibility.
Somehow
What little there is.
Somehow I have a feeling if you found a picture of him in those leopard skin pants and tried to email it to me, it would get caught in our filter.
It would probably get bounced back.
I'm going to take it off my Instagram.
I have a feeling now, if you try and email me back on something after this interview, it's going to be blocked.
I'm sure.
I can guarantee that.
Well, it's been really fun, and I appreciate you guys having me here.
Yeah, so we always finish with 2 questions.
Tell me what
you kind of answered one of them already, but I'll give you a chance to kind of give it in a more focused actual answer to a question. We asked this of all of our guests. What do you love about UA, and what would you change?
What I love about UA is the sense of community, the pride of ownership. I like its small size. I like UA for what city planners might not like for UA. It's mostly residential. We don't have warehouses. We don't have, Royer's putting up that monster on a lane in North Star, but we don't have a lot of gigantic buildings. We don't have traffic problems. I love the shade. I love the trees. I love that the streets are well maintained for biking and rollerblading and running. And I like the fact that people come back here. I don't think as many people stay here as is perceived. And I think if you're not from here, one thing I really like, if you come here, you're pretty much welcomed with open arms. It's not like I think some people perceive. Most of the people on my street were not from Upper Arlington, but they've become Golden Bears, and their kids are Golden Bears. And I just think it's an easy place to get into if you want a really nice community for your family. And I think it's a great place to come back to. And I see these high school kids, I have one, and, I love the way they all, UA, it's the bubble, this and that. But as he's growing up and becoming a senior this year, he's like, this place is awesome, Dad. Thanks, So he's starting to get it. I don't know what I don't like about it. I don't have any complaints. I'm not one of the people that complain about the new building at Kingsdale or the tennis courts being moved at North. I'm not a politician. I'm not a community activist. I'm on a low information diet. And I like to just let the city do what I think they're doing best. And when everyone was complaining about all the stuff on Lane Avenue, I never thought that was going to be a bad deal. And I think now that it's up, everybody loves it. And yeah, it was a pain when you guys squeezed down Lane Avenue and put parking on there because it slowed everything down. But guess what? You drive by Lane Avenue now, there's pedestrian traffic, where I didn't even think it would happen because it's only one side of the street. But, I don't have any complaints about Upper Arlington. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'm going to stay out of it.
So we're on episode, what is this? 14. So 14, we are 14-0. Nobody has yet said that they want to change the city manager and city attorney. So we're doing okay.
No, I think you guys are doing a great job.
That's the only reason we asked that question, for our own egos.
And I didn't realize you guys were young and cool.
Young.
Oh, and cool. I wasn't hitting cool. You were hitting young.
On that note, yeah, we're done. I think we're
can't beat that.
That was what's the phrase?
gnarvana.
That was gnarvana.
That's awesome.
So thank you both for our most Nirvana-esque.
Ooh. Nirvana-esque is good. I'm gonna go with that.
All right, Nirvana-esque episode yet, and thanks for coming on, and thanks for being here and helping us out.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.